Good morning, everyone. It is 7 a.m. Thursday, January 16th, and I'm Errol Barnett. Right now, we're following breaking news. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has accused Hamas of backtracking on some elements of the ceasefire deal announced yesterday. In a statement, Netanyahu claimed Hamas was trying to, quote, extort last-minute concessions, and said his security cabinet, which still needs to approve this deal, will not convene until mediators confirm Hamas has accepted all elements of the agreement. CBS News foreign correspondent Ramy Inocencio is following these developments for us from Tel Aviv today. Ramy, what can you tell us about this apparent holdup to implementing the significant deal?
Errol, yes, good morning. And this news will no doubt be frustrating, if not disheartening, for so many here in Israel, hoping for their loved ones, hostages, to be released, but also in Gaza for the end to this war after now more than 467 days since October 7th of 2023. Now, walking you through the incidents that have happened, we first got word this morning that the cabinet meeting for approval of this deal was delayed. We didn't get any reason as to why, but then shortly thereafter, the office of Israel's prime minister released a statement saying that Hamas, quote, had reneged on parts of this deal, and their claim, at least, is to extract last-minute concessions. Israeli media are now reporting that this has to do with which Palestinian detainees may be released as part of this deal in exchange for Israeli hostages. Apparently, the initial agreement was that Israel and Hamas did agree that some of these detainees, of which there are about 11,000, some of these detainees would be off limits. But now it's reported that Hamas wants some kind of, if you'll say, veto power, some kind of final say. Ostensibly, this could mean that they might want higher value detainees to be released, potentially past leaders and potential really future leaders of Hamas. But Hamas did come out with a statement just now saying that they are still committed to this deal. No one is saying that this deal has been totally derailed. Talks still do continue.
There was so much optimism around this on Wednesday, Ramy, but also that sense of caution when it came to which Palestinians Israel would release. If this does move through, how will it play out?
Sure. Let's hope that they get through this part of this impasse. Then here in Israel, it would go through a wider and wider circle of approval. First, it would go to the security cabinet, the war cabinet, made up of 5 ministers. Some of those are far-right ministers. One of them we know is against this deal, the National Security Minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir. If it survives that, and it is expected to, then it would go to the full cabinet, of which there are about 3 dozen ministers. If it survives that, again, expected to, it would then go to the parliament, Israel's Knesset, made up of 120 members. Off of that, we would then move ahead to phase 1. There are 3 phases. Phase 1 would potentially start this Sunday, and we could see the release of 3, perhaps 4 female hostages. Now, it's unclear what this holdup we're talking about this morning might do, might influence, might impact that dateline, that timeline. But from what we understand, the first hostages could be released this Sunday. In exchange, Palestinian detainees, potentially by the dozens per each hostage, would then be released. Israel's military would move from population centers in the central part of the Gaza Strip towards the perimeters, and then potentially aid would be surged into Gaza. But again, we have to get through this first impasse that we've been reporting on whether Hamas and Israel can agree to which Palestinian prisoners might be released, and then it would go to an agreement here in the political realm of Israel, and then to implementation.
I know you'll continue to report on this with updates throughout the day. Ramy, viewers should stay close for your reporting. Thank you very much. For more on the U.S. involvement of this deal, let's speak now with CBS News White House reporter Willie James Inman. Willie, what can you tell us about the joint efforts made by both the Biden and Trump teams to get this far and negotiate this ceasefire deal?
Hey there, Errol. Well, the details of this negotiation really come down to how closely both teams, the Biden team and the incoming Trump team, worked together behind the scenes to make sure this deal came to fruition. And essentially that meant that President Biden's envoy, Brett McGurk, to the Middle East worked in tandem with Steve Witkoff. That's the incoming Middle East envoy that President-elect Trump has appointed for his team. And John Kirby, the National Security Council spokesperson, spoke about this yesterday on America Decides. Listen.
We approach these negotiations as one team. Once President-elect Trump won the election, the president directed us, our team, to reach out to them to make sure that they were fully informed and were coordinated with and involved. And Mr. Witkoff was involved in discussions in the region, in Doha and in Tel Aviv, because we know, President knew, that it was going to be up to Mr. Witkoff and the Trump team to implement this.
Now, this is important for the two teams to work together because perhaps Hamas could exploit any differences between the Trump and Biden teams. So they're presenting a united front here and making sure that they're on the same page, thus coming to this agreement. But as Ramy mentioned, this agreement really is just volatile and it really could fall apart. But the hope is that it stays together and those hostages are released, Daryl.
And Willie, last night I had the pleasure of being part of our team coverage of President Biden's farewell address to the nation. He touted accomplishments, but also offered a stern warning. Let's listen to that.
Today, an oligarchy is taking shape in America of extreme wealth, power, and influence that literally threatens our entire democracy, our basic rights and freedoms.
He detailed that for a number of minutes. What's the significance of that piece of Biden's outgoing message?
Yeah, it really is significant. And I was watching your report along with our colleagues late last night. President Biden taking a pretty big chunk of his speech to talk about the threat of unchecked fact-checking, essentially, on social media. Without naming names, he didn't name Mark Zuckerberg or Jeff Bezos or any of the other billionaires, specifically Elon Musk, who have really just grown closer to President-elect Trump. But he talked about this decentralized, essentially, or centralized, I should say, oligarchy of tech, billionaires controlling information in America. He also talked about fact-checking on social media. He pushed back against that. That is something that he has come out and enforced and talked about with in exit interviews in recent days about misinformation spreading rampant in America and how the U.S. media landscape is changing as well. So it's really interesting to see President Biden talk about the threats that he sees that America faces in the future. Although he won't be there in that political future, he did talk about his 50-year or so career in Washington, D.C., but being more grandiose in terms of the threats that America faces in this important speech that he gave last night from the Oval Office.
Yeah, viewers should certainly listen back to it in case they didn't see it live. Willie, thank you very much.